Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, was just asked on CBS News, Face the Nation, do you have intelligence that actually shows that there was some sort of ambition? Which is the primary reason, right? I thought that was the most significant aspect of this.
Thanks, Sean. Take care.
Following the U.S. bombing of 3 sites in Iran yesterday, Trump administration a sigh of relief that the highly classified bombing mission appears to have gone off without a hitch. But there is also concern now about what happens next when it comes.
Well, I'm telling you right now, this is ridiculous. They are like, everything that they said about the initial success, they're going to walk back quietly. Or not quietly. They're just going to casually walk back as they talk about the necessity for further strikes. Okay? That is, if Iran doesn't even retaliate against American troop positions in the region. Athletes don't wear their own merch. That's funny. I mean, they do when they're literally performing, no? They're going to be like, oh, Israel has to keep striking Iran because, we found new sites. We found new sites where they have moved their enriched uranium to. Oh, make no mistake. We don't want regime change. This is just for the weapons that they definitely have now. It's bullshit. I don't know if you watched it, but his NBC interview was even better. He straight up said back in the Iraq days, we had dumb presidents and now we don't. Yeah, I love that. One of the funniest parts about this is JD Vance is also still trying to signal that he's like anti-escalation. I think that's an interesting space to watch as well. You might see a little bit of like, oh, well, I stand by my president unconditionally, but like, we have differences in opinion. I already saw the first makings of this with some leaks, in air quotes, from the internal disagreements about striking Iran.
Comes to Iran. Operation Midnight Hammer involved top secret planning and a head fake as 2 strike forces of B-2 bombers departed the U.S., flying in opposite directions late Friday night. On Saturday, defense officials confirmed to CBS News that there were, in fact, B-2s headed to Guam, flying west from their home in Missouri. But those
Here's NBC Meet the Press.
With Americans who are exhausted after 25 years of foreign entanglements in the Middle East. I understand the concern, but the difference is that back then we had dumb presidents, and now we have a president who actually knows how to accomplish America's national security objectives. So this is not going to be some long, drawn-out thing. We've got in. We've done the job of setting their program back. We're going to now work to permanently dismantle that program over the coming years, and that is what the president has set out to do. Simple principle. Iran can't have a weapon. That has animated American policy over the past 130 days. It's going to continue to be a driving force of our policy in the Middle East for the next 3.5 years. I certainly...
Yeah, thank God for our brilliant leadership now.
Those were decoys.
Fucking
a separate
clowns.
fleet of B-2s departed from that same location, heading east to the targets in Iran. Pentagon officials say the mission was an overwhelming success, but also concede it is too early to assess if Iran still has capability. 14 30,000-pound massive ordnance penetrator weapons, or MOPs, dropped on an underground facility in Fordow and a key uranium enrichment site in Natanz. Additional American Tomahawks struck a third site at Isfahan.
I think Tehran is certainly calculating the reality that planes flew from the middle of America and Missouri overnight, completely undetected over 3 of their most highly sensitive sites, and we were able to destroy capabilities. We believe that'll have a clear psychological impact on how they view the future.
At the White House late last night, President Trump issued his own stern warning to Iran.
There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill.
And those words, go after other targets.
How much did it cost? Approximately 144,000 people's health care coverage across the board for the year, just for this 24-hour operation. Okay, actually, maybe more than that. Also, this kind of stuff is so stupid because, like, when they're having this conversation about, like, we don't want regime change, Trump has already tweeted out that he wants regime change in Iran.
Have led to confusion and some concern about what is next for the U.S. role in this very volatile crisis. Secretary of State and acting White House National Security Advisor Marco Rubio now joins us. Mr. Secretary, I know it has been an intense few hours, but so far it does not appear that Iran has yet retaliated against the United States. What intelligence do you have at this point about their capabilities to respond, the intent of their proxies? Is there any kind of command and control structure left to activate them?
Yeah, well, we'll see what Iran decides to do. I think they should choose the route of peace. We've done everything. We have bent over backwards, okay, to create a deal with these people. Steve Witkoff has traveled the world extensively, met with them. Well, not even met with them, met through the Omanis with them and discussed back and forth. We even put an offer to them that they wanted elements of it in writing, and we offered it to them. Very generous offer, by the way. We've done it, and we're prepared right now. If they call right now and say, we want to meet, let's talk about this, we're prepared to do that. The president's made that clear from the very beginning. His preference is to deal with this issue diplomatically. But he also told them we had 60 days to make progress or something else was going to happen.
This kind of stuff is so funny. I do wonder if your parents believe this. Chatters, do your liberal parents actually believe this shit? Because this is liberal media, right? And they're not antagonistic to this talking point at all. You rarely ever hear liberal media turn around and say, what do you mean you want to deal with? I'm getting a lot of yeses and a lot of nos. Like, even ones that hate the administration, I wonder if this works on them. They're like, oh, well, you know, Iran can't have a weapon. This is terrifying. You want to poll it? A lot of no's in the chat. I'm seeing a lot of no's. 60% no's. All right, vote. Vote in the poll. There's 56,000 people in here. Vote. Vote, damn it. Do your parents, do your lib parents believe in the idea that these guys are actually invested in diplomacy, despite the fact that they struck Iran amidst diplomacy? Unless your parents are Trumpers, in which case, I guess, like, you know, they're more likely to believe whatever the fuck this administration is saying. They download the talking points as soon as Trump says it.
Happen. And I think they thought they were dealing with a different kind of leader, like the kinds of leaders they've been playing games with for the last 30 or 40 years, and they found out that's not the case. So this mission was a very precise mission. It had three objectives, three sites. It was not an attack on Iran. It was not an attack on the Iranian people. This wasn't a regime change move. This was designed to degrade and or destroy three sites related to their weaponization ambitions, and that was delivered on yesterday. What happens next will now depend on what Iran chooses to do next. If they choose the path of diplomacy, we're ready. We can do a deal that's good for them, the Iranian people, and good for the world. Yeah. If they choose another route, then there'll be consequences for that.
Let me follow up on a phrase you just word, weaponization ambitions. Are you saying there that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization?
That's irrelevant. Being asked in the media, that's an irrelevant question.
No,
they have everything they need.
What? I'm sorry. What? Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, was just asked on CBS News, Face the Nation, do you have intelligence that actually shows that there was some sort of ambition? Which is the primary reason, right? I thought that was the most significant aspect of this.
Are you saying that, follow up on a phrase?
If they choose another route, then there'll be consequences for that.
Let me follow up on a phrase you just word, weaponization ambitions. Are you saying there that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization?
That's irrelevant. I see that question being asked in the media. That's an irrelevant question.
No,
They have
that is
everything
the
they need
key
to build a
point
weapon.
in U.S. intelligence assessments. You know that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's
that
not.
the political
No, I
decision
know,
had not
I know
been
that better
made.
than you know that, and I know that that's not the case.
But
You don't
I'm
know-
asking
you
you
don't
whether
know
the
what you're
order
talking
was
about.
given.
And the people who say that, it doesn't matter if the order was given. They have everything they need to build weapons. Why would you bury things in a mountain, 300 feet under the ground?
Right.
Why would you bury why do they have 60% enriched?
Oh my God. Oh my God. He just straight up confirmed that there wasn't any new information. I mean, we knew that already, but it's crazy that he just confirmed it. As the Secretary of State, hold on. I do want to hear from
From his vice president's message this
Fox
morning.
News with
Our
the
view has
regime
been very
change
clear that
meta.
we don't want a regime change. We do not want to protract this.
The White House not responding to reports that Iran's supreme leader named 3 candidates to succeed him should he be killed, or if that should be viewed as an indication Iran is moving toward retaliation. Today, this from Iran's foreign minister.
I think it is irrelevant to ask Iran to return to diplomacy. We were in the but we were attacked.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Iranian negotiators went dark as the U.S. presented offers for a civilian nuclear energy program with enrichment outside Iran.
They rejected it. They played us. They tried to play us, I should say. They wouldn't respond to our offers. They disappeared for 10 days.
The vice president said President Trump realized by mid-May negotiations were going nowhere, then issued private ultimatums and greenlit the operation after this.
The Iranians stopped negotiating in good faith. That was the real catalyst.
Now the White House waits for a response. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps says Washington...
Bro, notice how they don't say the Iranians stopped negotiating, because that's a lie. So they say the Iranians stopped negotiating in good faith. Like, we didn't like the negotiations. Also, saying that while you have just executed a strike on Iran is insane. And yes, Richard Medhurst is correct here. She looks like she's challenging Rubio, but is propaganda with the illusion of journalism. When Rubio says, why does Iran have 60% enriched uranium? The correct and factual answer is, and this is a partisan answer, if you are a liberal, by the way, is because the U.S. walked away from the JCPOA. But you'll never hear that on mainstream media, which is shocking, because that was literally Barack Obama's signature foreign policy accomplishment. Like, if the Democrats actually had any investment in winning and being an anti-war party, being an anti-interventionist party, when we know there's a lot of popular sentiment for this position, they would just say, this is one of Barack Obama's incredible accomplishments. We love Barack Obama. And they never let him down. I mean, or they never let him live it down. All of the European leaders that were yelling at Donald Trump to stay in the JCPOA at the time are now fantasizing about how awesome it was and talking about how dope it was that they did a strike on Iran.
Uranium. You don't need 60% enriched uranium. The only countries in the world that have uranium at 60% are countries that have nuclear weapons. Because they can just quickly make it 90. They have all the elements. They have. Why do they have a space program? Is Iran going to go to the moon? No, they're trying to build an ICBM.
No, but
so
that's
they
a
can one day
question.
put a
That's a
warhead on
question.
it.
That's a question of intent, and you know, in the intelligence assessment, that it was that Iran wanted to be a threshold
How do
state
you know what
and
the
use this
intelligence
leverage.
assessment says?
I'm
How do
talking
you know
about
what
the
the
public
intelligence assessment
March
says?
assessment, and that's
Also, okay, Richard Medhurst is wrong. She's right. She actually did push back on the 60% assessment. No, she's right. Never mind. I actually should give her a little bit more credit. In talking about the JCPOA would be the smart thing to do here, but she's not wrong. The reason why Iran is at a nuclear has become a nuclear threshold state is because it gives them an upper hand in the negotiations to allow maintaining their civilian nuclear infrastructure. And they have every right to do so because America pulled out of it and then applied a comprehensive sanctions package on Iran. That's it.
That's why I was asking you if you know something more from
but
March.
that's also
if
an
an order
inaccurate
was
representation of it. That's an accurate representation of it. That's not how intelligence is read. That's not how intelligence is used. Here's what the whole world knows. Forget about intelligence. What the IAEA knows. They are enriched.
Dog, you are the Secretary of State. What do you mean forget about the intelligence? That's your intelligence. What do you mean? Forget about the intelligence. You're not like a random guy on the street. You're the intelligence.
Enriching uranium well beyond anything you need for a civil nuclear program. So why would you enrich uranium at 60%?
Right.
If you don't intend to one day use it to take it to 90 and build a weapon?
Right.
Why?
Oh, she says right. Okay, this is where she falls apart. Because at first she pushes back correctly, where she's like, they have enriched uranium to 60% with no intention by your own intelligence assessments, your own intelligence community's assessments, no interest in reaching beyond the nuclear threshold and becoming a state armed with nuclear warheads, to a detriment, mind you. That's my assessment, at least, clearly, to a detriment.
Why are you developing ICBMs? Why do you have 8,000 short-range missiles and 2,000 to 3,000 long
I don't know. Why are your bases surrounding this goddamn state? Perhaps that's the reason. Why does America have short-range ballistic missiles and long-range ballistic missiles and intercontinental ballistic missiles and submarines that have nuclear launch capabilities? Why would anybody do that? I don't know. Maybe because they don't want to be Lebanon, dumbass.
Range missiles that you continue to develop. Why do you do all these things? They
Understood.
have everything they need for a nuclear weapon. They have the delivery mechanisms, they have the enrichment capability, they have the highly enriched uranium that is stored.
Yes.
That's all we need to see.
Right. Well, and
especially
that's,
in the hands of a regime that's already involved in terrorism and proxies and all kinds of things around. They are the source of all
yes, and no one's
in the Middle
disputing.
East.
No one's disputing.
They're just bad. They're big bad. They're the big bad. Please, please. It's like Marvel. It's like Top Gun. Why don't you understand? We have to blow them up. Fuck. They have space lasers. God, you're so annoying. Let me blow up Iran a little bit. What is this scrutiny? God, you're so annoying. They're just bad, okay? Trust me. One of the funniest parts about this back and forth is that everything we say about Iran is more applicable to Israel. Like, everything we fantasize about Iran is literally Israel now. What does Mossad have on Marco? Nothing. Don't believe. Moment. I hate when people do this. Do not entertain the notion that Marco Rubio had to get blackmailed by Mossad to arrive at this position. He is the Secretary of State for the United States of America. He has been a war hawk for his entire career, to the extent that Marco and Trump and all these other people allow Israel to be the tip of the spear, okay, the tail wagging the dog, if you will, is not due to some kind of like pedophilic blackmail operation, but is entirely the consequence of their own true belief that these guys actually know what they're doing, perhaps even better than we do. And the naysayers, as far as they exist, get squashed and stamped out pretty quickly by this foreign entities, intelligence communities, and sophisticated propaganda networks. The example I used already was the Central Command guy that they clapped as recently as last week for saying the correct thing about Israel, for saying the truth about Israel, that it's like a death cult that demands way more from America than we should be giving them. There does not need to be like this blackmailing operation. Americans are violent all on their own. Do you know how Trump decided to attack the weekend to buffer the inevitable stock market dip on Monday? Do you think Iran is holding off on their retaliation until tomorrow to maximize the stock market crash? Maybe. I can see that.
I'm not doing that here. And they were censured at the
The idea that these guys are all actually blackmailed by like a cabal. They were blackmailed by the Jewish cabal, Mossad, whatever you want to call it, depending on how insane you are, to arrive at these positions is really stupid. Okay? It's just copium. You recognize that this is like unacceptable, and you still believe in your heart that America is like, America is good, right? America's good, and our leadership is good, and they want to They want to do their very best to do right by the American citizens. They don't. They don't give a as long as their rich benefactors keep making money. That's all they're gonna do. You think every single General Mixstick that went on national TV yesterday and had a very hard time hiding their boners when they were rock hard, nipples so hard they could cut through diamonds, salivating at the prospect of striking Iran again and again? Do you think that those guys were all that horny because now they know their pedophile sex tapes are never going to be released? No, they just love death and destruction. They think about all the money that they're going to be making for the companies that they now lobby for, and many of them are also white supremacist psychopaths.
IAEA for that enrichment and for violating their non.
How do you explain 4 different Western countries regurgitating the same tweet? Easy. They're dogs to America. What do you mean? They're dogs to America, and they already get their talking points from pro-Israel groups anyway. They either get their talking points from pro-Israel group, America, which is the largest pro-Israel group on the planet. Yeah. This is their ultimate ambition. These guys do not operate outside of the confines of whatever America wants to do. It's that simple. Our interests align with Israelis. Our interests align with Israel's. Like, Israel is our weapon to wield in the region. The problem here is that because of its special client state status, Israel has chewed way more than it can swallow for far too long. And I think because America recognizes that it is at the precipice of losing its hegemonic status. I mean, look at what they're doing. They can't even dominate Russia. They want to pack up the region with one big Hail Mary campaign. How do you explain AIPAC's involvement if there isn't a slight cabal, which is not Jewish, but Israel? It's not even, dude, what you're just trying to say it's a cabal when what you mean is the Israel lobby. That's not a cabal. They're not doing it secretly. There is no blood rituals happening. They're just doing it in broad daylight. Why is it that every American has to find like a fantastical conspiracy when things are unfolding, like conspiracies, not conspiracy theories, but conspiracies in the actual term of it, to conspire, is happening in broad daylight in front of you. No blood rituals necessary. It's so weird that people are just like, oh, dude, it's just like, seems like there's got to be like some kind of shadow government. It's like, it's not a shadow. It's just the government. Okay. That's why I keep saying, I think completely disregarding the blackmail is not realistic. There must be blackmail and corruption element. No, it's corruption. It's not blackmail. Does blackmail exist? Absolutely. For the record, that's not what I'm saying at all. Like, Jeffrey Epstein is a joint CIA Mossad project that was a blackmail operation for a tremendous amount of wealthy and powerful people. Okay? That was definitely the case. But if you think that the reason why Bill Clinton was pro-Israel is because like he was children on Jeffrey Epstein's Lolita Express, you're out of your mind. He was doing that for fun on the side. He wasn't doing that so that that Israel could have blackmail material on Bill Clinton and then force him to take a position that was unsustainable for Palestinian emancipation. You understand? Fethullah HasanAbi Gülen, FETÖ'cü yayını. Bu da çok inanılmaz yani. Benden daha anti-CIA bir yayın olamaz ama Erdoğan'ın diyor buraya FETÖ'cü diyorlar gerizekalılar. Ulan neren FETÖ'cü? Hayvanoğlu hayvan. Ben Amerika'nın uşağı mıyım? Sen benden daha çok Amerika'nın uşağısın. Okudum evet. Gerizekalı. The right-wing hog version of what Americans say when Americans call me a terrorist because of my reasonable position, the Turkish version of that is to say I am an agent of Fethullah Gülen, as in I'm an agent of the CIA, which is the Turkish version of saying I'm a terrorist.
On proliferation agreements, I was simply asking if we had intelligence that there was an order to weaponize, because you said weaponization ambitions.
Well, we haven't.
Like, look, Trigaro, here, I'm going to try and allow this statement so that I can respond to it. He says, nah, I understand you not trying to be anti-Jewish, but stating simple facts isn't. Zionist Jews have coerced this country to heal through blackmail and bribery. This is the only part of this. I mean, there's multiple part of this that's wrong. Okay. I'm not saying this because I'm afraid of coming across as anti-Semitic. I'm saying what I'm saying because that is the truth. Okay? This is not the truth. That's it. The idea that it's actually a Jewish invention, the idea that this is like simply the product of Jews and their trickery is not only anti-Semitic, but also, outside of being bigoted, is just wrong. Like at its most simple, at its most basic, it's just wrong. Biden is not Jewish. It's not because Biden was blackmailed by Mossad or something that he was unimaginably pro-Israel for the entirety of his career. It is because evangelical, but a Catholic Zionist, okay, even a more unique position. This country has a ton of evangelical Zionists, okay? It's wrong. Thomas Massey interview, they have handlers for most politicians. Of course they do, just like the NRA does. Hasan, Marco Rubio just said, bro. He said, bro, LMFAO, what? Israel does not have to coerce America and Americans, or Israel has to coerce Americans, certainly, but Israel does not have to coerce American politicians, the American government, to get $300 billion of military and economic aid for the past 80 years, okay? They don't have to coerce anybody to do that. That's a given already. The coercion comes and the influence peddling comes at the point of continuing this allegiance that is basically outsourced to Israel to manufacture consent for. Do you understand? This benefits America's foreign policy goals. But because it has gotten so out of control and the influence was so pervasive that in a moment like this, where every American, especially due to social media, has seen exactly what Israel is doing in Gaza, has seen what Israel's been doing in Lebanon, the old ways of stamping out dissent no longer work. Part of that is because it's not America's war. If this was another 9/11 style situation, like October 7th happening to Israel as opposed to happening to America, is part of the reason why most Americans are like, okay, I mean, that's pretty crazy. These guys are savages, sure. But like what Israel has done since then is like way more savage. That's the average American position. This didn't happen to America. It happened to Israel. Most Americans still understand Israel as a totally separate foreign country. Part of that is because of the steady propaganda that Israel is a foreign country with autonomy. I think these chatters that are questioning you either don't know or have forgotten the tangible benefits like foreign policy goals, an umbrella term. Yeah, also, here's another thing. Okay? As far as like the influence peddling and even censorship regime that Israel implements in America, that is allowed by the American state, going so far as to have pro-Israel groups that can masquerade in Western society as advocacy groups for Jews, right? This is a lie, of course. The ADL does not care about Jews, and it doesn't care about anti-Semitism at all. It's simply using anti-Semitism as a cudgel, as a weapon to wield against those who dare criticize Israel. But there's a reason why people are still afraid, especially careerists are still afraid, to come out and speak the truth, even if they feel it. And it's not because of blackmail. It is because of the unimaginable metric ton of shit they throw your way. Here's a great example of this. You know what my position is. I have combated anti-Semitism in perpetuity for my entire professional media career. I've been targeted and attacked relentlessly by Nazis for this. And yet, when push came to shove post-October 7, and I did not stray away from my position on Palestinian emancipation, okay, I became enemy number one, public enemy number one for the ADL. And now, after an entire year and a half, almost 2 years of nonstop propaganda smears, they even use politicians that are also pro-Palestine. They use us conversing with one another as a way to attack Zoran in a sea of other also equally idiotic statements like support for boycott, divestments, and sanctions movement, defense of the phrase globalize the intifada, condemning Israel after October 7 attacks. None of these things actually meet the standard of scrutiny, okay? None of them. refusing to disavow controversial streamer Hasan Piker, who called Jews inbred after appearing on a show. I didn't call Jews inbred. I called Kahanist settler terrorist inbred, as I have done so for every single fundamentalist weirdo. I call right-wingers who are ultra-nationalist terrorists in Israel inbred, just as I call right-wingers who are ultra-nationalist terrorists in America inbred, regardless of what their background might be. It's a whole ass different statement. But it doesn't matter. I do it to hogs. I call them pigs, too. Piker has been accused of anti-Semitism for repeatedly describing Orthodox Jews as inbred. That's not true. No, I love Orthodox Jews, for the record. The Kahanist, the Kahanist rabid settlers aside, Netori Karta is great. Love those guys. They're fantastic. I care about Zionism and anti-Zionism. I don't care about what someone's like fundamentalist perspective is. Condemned October 7th Nova Music Festival as a bloodthirsty pig. Wait, what? Labeled a Vero condemned October 7th Nova Music Festival massacre as a bloodthirsty pig dog during a scene recorded the day after the text, which was also criticized as anti-Semitic. Piker says the quotes are taken out of context. When asked why he appeared with the streamer when others have found Piker's comments anti-Semitic, Mamdani doubled down. I'm willing to speak to each and every person about this campaign, and I've said that from the beginning. Mamdani told Politico in April. Anyway, this is the reason why many people just are silenced in this process. And for the longest time, this kind of smear worked. Okay? For the longest time, mischaracterizations and false smears of anti-Semitism was incredibly successful at stopping people, progressive people especially, from saying the truth, saying their opinion, investigating further. They're getting cooked in the replies here. Relax, twink. Resurfaced photo shows New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani with leftist streamer Hasan Piker, who once said America deserved 9/11. If the liberal elite and right-wingers are this scared of Zohran Mamdani, it means Mamdani's doing something right. Rank Mamdani number 1. Resurfaced. It was posted a day ago, lol. Resurfaced. It was never covered up. They did a live stream together like a month ago, and Hasan Piker never said that. That is a blatant smearing. I feel like his dishonest framing of this tweet is pretty indicative of just who is running this account. Yeah, remember, Newswire is supposed to be this like objective news resource. Why are they attacking popular progressive candidate Zohran Mamdani? Why are they using Fox News style sentiment here? Perhaps I should have taken that $1 million Polymarket sponsorship. Maybe Newswire wouldn't be up my asshole like this. Seemingly they are also sponsored by Polymarket. For one day, Polymarket came to me for one day and wanted to give me $1 million as a starting the negotiations. They were like, we'll do $1 million, which means they would have gone up even higher than that just for the election day coverage. And I said, no, I will not do that. Brett McGurk is a partner in Lux Capital, a VC firm which began investigating Israeli defense companies after the genocide started. Here's Lux co-founder Josh Wolf being racist about Zohran Mamdani, and here he and Brett McGurk are with MBS. That's what CNN is paying for. Josh Wolf, hell no to this hateful jihadi. A privilege to celebrate Founding Day with His Royal Highness Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, plus Lux Venture Capital Brett McGurk. MBS and Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are taking a key role in diplomacy on all key conflicts. Good reasons to expect very good things coming. Yeah, the scary anti-Semite Zohran Kwame Mamdani, as opposed to guy who probably has not so favorable opinions on Jews, but is definitely a reliable ally to Israel, MBS. But do you agree that CIA and Mossad use Epstein to blackmail people through honeypots for Israel's benefit? I don't think it's just for Israel's benefit. I think we unfortunately will never know until maybe like 50, 60 years in the future. But we most likely will not know for the time being what the benefits were. But if you think that it's just for Israel, you're wrong on that too. It's a shared asset, but it's an oversimplification to think that Epstein was just working at the behest of Israel. It's not wrong to say that. It is 100% correct to say that Jeffrey Epstein absolutely was working alongside, in tandem with Israel's interests. Okay? That much is true. But to assume that this is a sophisticated pedophilia blackmail operation exclusively for Mossad, exclusively for Israel's interests would be wrong. Especially considering, hey, no barking. What are you barking at? Hold on.
Intelligence that they have everything they need to build a nuclear weapon,
it.
and that's more than enough.
Okay. I want to ask you on the policy front. There are personnel throughout the Middle East from the United States, in Bahrain, in Kuwait, and other bases. If those countries are attacked by Iran because of their association with the United States, will the United States defend them?
Well, that's exactly why they're there. That's a great point, actually. Do you know why we have bases in Bahrain and Qatar and UAE and all these places? All of those bases are there because those countries are afraid that Iran will attack them. If Iran was not a threat to the region, if the Iranian regime, because I'm talking about the Iranian people, the regime was not a threat to the region, we wouldn't have to have any of these bases. Those bases are there because those countries are petrified that that the Iranian Shia clerics that run that country will attack their countries.
Will the United States defend them if they are?
As you know, they've got a very difficult history. Well, that's why we're there. That's why we're there.
So
but
yes, we will
defend our people, obviously. We'll defend our people. Well, they'll attack our bases, and those are our bases, and we're going to defend our personnel, and we're prepared to do that. But we'll do more than just defend. We'll impose costs on Iran if they attack American personnel, whether they do it directly or whether they do it through some of these proxies that they try to hide behind, and that includes the Houthis. Yeah. So another proxy of theirs. So, but let's hope they don't choose that route. Let's all hope that they actually decide, okay, let's go negotiate, because we want a diplomatic and peaceful solution. We have achieved our objectives. We're ready to negotiate this in a peaceful, diplomatic way. We've been prepared to do that for days. They are the ones that played games, as they have done for 40 years, as they have done to multiple presidents. They tried to play games with President Trump, and they see what happens. This is not a game-playing president. When he says he's going to do something, he will do it.
I hear you saying here you want to de-escalate when you are talking about diplomacy. You are looking for Iran to pick up that offer that was put on the table you mentioned by Steve Witkoff. Can you just clarify, does that mean the U.S. would still allow for Iran to have a civilian nuclear program if it does not enrich on its own soil?
But that's never been an issue. There's countries all over the world that have a civil nuclear program. No one here is saying that Iran can't. Sure, that's always been there. Any country in the world has a right to have a civil nuclear program. What they don't have a right to do is to enrich it at 60%, hide it under a mountain, and develop long-range and short-range and mid-range missiles and sponsor terrorist proxies all over the world. They don't have a right to do that. And that's what they've been doing. And no one's dealt with it. And it's continued to linger. And they've played games with multiple presidents and multiple countries around the world, and they've gotten away with it for 40-something years. This is very simple. The president wants to resolve this diplomatically and peacefully. He gave them a chance to do that. They delayed. They had all.
This kind of gaslighting is so funny, dude. Like, oh, dude, countries all around the world have civil nuclear programs. Like, what do you mean? But we just don't want Iran to have one, you know? They do have a right to build missiles. Yeah, of course they have a right to build missiles. And also, America's steady intervention in the region is the reason why they spend so much on their missile defense. Have you analyzed the Epstein situation on stream? Are you kidding me? Oh my God. Have I? Oh, have I? Extensively. Back in the day. Old heads remember my YouTube channel almost got entirely blacklisted because I stupidly uploaded a 9-hour Jeffrey Epstein analysis stream in its entirety to my YouTube channel. And then the next video I uploaded after that got like 10 views. And I very quickly deleted the video. I have since then done more coverage on it. But literally the next day, the video that came after that it had like 10 views. I couldn't believe it.
All these kind of delay tactics. They wouldn't even meet with us directly. We had to go through third countries. This is very simple. Let's meet directly. Let's work on agreements that are good for Iran, good for the Iranian people in particular, good for the safety and security of the world and the United States. That's always been our preference. That continues to be our preference. But they're the ones that were playing games with us. And these are the consequences. We had to achieve those objectives. We had 3 objectives yesterday: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. We conducted a brilliant military operation under the command of President Trump, and obviously great credit to Secretary Hegseth and General Kurilla and General Kane and all the airmen and the phenomenal people in the U.S. military. No other military in the world could have done this.
No,
we've achieved those objectives. What happens next is up to the regime. Okay, the regime wants peace. We're ready for peace. They want to do something else. They're incredibly vulnerable. They can't even protect their own airspace.
Well, clearly they could not. But what is the U.S. assessment of how much nuclear material at those sites was moved prior to the attack? There has been talk for days about bombing of Fordow.
Well, look, we don't know.
At a certain point, we got to ask ourselves, what was the goal here then? Because what was the goal here? If they move the enriched uranium away from Fordow, and if you're saying that they're allowed to have a civil nuclear program, and that they wanted to They wanted to negotiate, and then you guys struck them amidst the negotiation. At a certain point, what's all this for? Therein lies the problem. It's for regime change. HasanAbi should fight Sam Hyde. No, thank you. I do not want to be anywhere near that disgusting pedophile Nazi. Okay? 40-year-old man still trying to do edgy humor, incredibly resentful and angry that there are Mexican Americans. I'm good.
No one will know for sure for days, but I doubt they moved it because you really can't move anything right now. And they can't move anything right now inside of Iran. I mean, the minute a truck starts driving somewhere, the Israelis have seen it and they've targeted it and taken it out. So our assessment is we have to assume that that's a lot of 60% enriched uranium buried deep under the ground there in Esfahan. And that really is the key. What they should do with that is they should bring it out of the ground and turn it over. Multiple countries around the world will take it and downblend it. That's what they should do with that. And what they should do is say, we're not going to have any enrichment capability in our country. Instead, what we're going to have is a civil nuclear program like dozens of countries around the world have, where we build reactors that...
Dude, the needle is going to move away from the nuclear program. If they were to actually successfully take out the entirety of they're going to keep saying we have to bomb it more. Or if Iran said, okay, we will no longer have a nuclear program, then they're going to say you're funding proxy groups in the region and you have a missile system that is actually threatening our bases that you decided to have a country near, okay? And the ultimate goal is always going to be the same. There's always something else. That's it. They'll just move the goalpost to the next thing. This is not a real negotiation with a state that they want to allow to remain a state. Mahmoud Khalil's at the protest. This is what I was supposed to be at. Joins rally outside of Columbia University. A pro-Palestine protester here on a green card who was arrested by ICE and recently released on bail. Despicable. I know the comparison isn't the same, but swap this for any other resource doesn't make sense. Imagine a medieval lord saying another country can't have metal because they can make swords. Yes. Teaser. I have Zohran Mamdani winning the 56th Assembly District, Bedford, by 12% versus Andrew Cuomo in the final round of RCV. That feels a little low. For context, Eric Adams won Bed-Stuy by 28% versus Catherine Garcia. I have Mamdani plus 12. That says something. Demographic change, Zomentum, and Cuomo weakness compared to Adams. Bad day at work? What do you mean? The Pope did do that. Literally said longbows could not be used on fellow Christians. Dude, you don't believe this? Iran sent a communique to Trump in the days before last night's attacks threatening to activate sleeper cell terror. Yeah. Breaking news. I have it on good authority that Iran said, we did 9/11 and we will do it again. That's right. Iran came out and in a private correspondence with Donald Trump said that they were actually responsible for 9/11 and Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and they're willing to do it again. That's what I've heard. Breaking news. Iran sent a communique to Trump in the days before last night's strikes on it. Oh my God. The propaganda machine is going crazy.
Create electricity and we import enriched material. And we've made very general, I'm not going to get all the details of the offers, but there are other avenues here that would be acceptable to them. If that's what they wanted, if what they want is a civil, peaceful...
I think a lot of young people at least are knowledgeable of 9/11 and the weapons of mass destruction lies to go to war with Iraq. But I don't think they're aware of like the anthrax summer campaigns. You know what I mean? Anthrax campaigns.
Nuclear program. The route has always been there. The problem is that everything they're demanding has nothing to do with a peaceful program. They are all the things you would want if you want to retain the option of one day weaponizing the program. Okay. Which has been their clear intent. To me, that's indisputable. I followed this issue for 15 years, including the intelligence on it for 15 years. Okay, I have followed it. And the intelligence, these are assessments, and sometimes they've been wrong. I've seen them revised multiple times. These guys want a nuclear weapon one day.
Okay, to that point.
And it isn't going to happen. Not while Donald Trump is president.
Understood. You've said this is not about regime change, but you were describing a regime that you have said for decades, I mean, for upwards of 40 years, has chanted death to America, has done all the things you just described. Isn't a diplomatic deal with them a lifeline?
Why does anybody care that he said, bro? I don't care.
Aren't you offering to negotiate with the same people you're saying did all these things? So therefore, are you actually looking for regime change?
Well, that misses the point. I don't like that they chant those things, but one thing is that they chant those things. Another thing is that they
BB says he has interesting information about the location of Iran's enriched uranium. You don't say. No. Please link this to me. Please. No shot. No shot. That came way, brother, that came way, way, way faster than I thought it would. Prime Minister Israel's interesting intel on whereabouts of Iran's 60% enriched uranium. Israel's interesting intel on the whereabouts of Iran's 400 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium. That's so shocking. The Iranian regime has its enriched uranium under tunnels, under hospitals, in the Ayatollah's swimming pool, in the Ayatollah's garage. It is under Iranian hospitals and in the cribs of Iranian babies of terror. Israel must do everything it can in its power to stop the terror regime. I have it on good authority that Zoran Mamdani also has the enriched uranium. You must not let Zoran Mamdani become the mayor of New York. If you do, you might find beepers in hospitals. You might find uranium under hospitals and also under kindergartens as well. This is not a threat, but a promise.
Chant those things, and they have terror proxies are all over the world, and they have long-range missiles that can reach the United States one day, and they have the potential to be one step away from a nuclear weapon. Yeah, well, one day could be tomorrow, could be a week from now, could be a month from now. You know, all it takes is the flip of a switch. By the way, they're not going to broadcast that to the world. By the time we figure out
Iran didn't launch the war. My God, we are living in Orwellian times. Iran had it coming, according to The Atlantic. If the war launched by the rulers of Iran has brought only defeat and humiliation to their country, that does not make those rulers victims of anybody else's aggression. A failed aggressor is still the aggressor. Right move, wrong team by David Frum. It's very frustrating that these guys who very clearly represent the interests of Israel above anything else don't want to fucking live there. I'm so goddamn annoyed. I'm so fucking annoyed. Why do you live here? Go live there. If you want to live there, you can easily go and live there. As I've said time and time again, they love white people there. Christian or not. Maybe you'll get spit on in Jerusalem, but outside of that, you're gonna easily live there. It's so frustrating. Anyway,